national anthem this preseason, including taking a knee, raising a fist, or staying off the field altogether. Eagles safety Malcolm Jenkins chose to stay in the tunnel for the Eagles' last preseason game, and when asked why, he said, quote, "I want the conversation to be about the issues, not about the anthem and whether it's the right time or wrong time. There's a lot of work being done. I want that to be the focus." We're joined once again by USA Today NFL columnist Jarrett Bell. And we want to know from you, because you've been around this, you've been close to it. How will this play out?
And that's a great question. And I've been actually trying to find that concrete answer, and it has been so elusive. As we can gather right now with the two sides talking, still not coming to any agreement. And you know what? I don't know if there really will be an agreement. And if there is, I don't know if that's going to happen by the start of the regular season. So you think about these things, just like, rules changes. You want everything to kind of be laid out, ready to go, in place. You say, in place by week 1. I don't know if that's going to happen here. I don't know if it's going to happen with the helmet rule either. But when we're talking about this policy, that obviously there are a lot of interests that, want to see it go one way or another. I don't know if it's going to happen that way. And we've seen this throughout the past year as they've discussed it. So don't think of the week 1 opener to be some kind of artificial deadline, because I think the Players Union will tell you that they probably would prefer it to be status quo and not even have a policy overall. I think beyond that, the question on the players and how they handle it individually. So we've seen Malcolm Jenkins come out. We've seen Malcolm Jenkins stay in the tunnel. And Malcolm Jenkins, by the way, one of the real, positive personalities in this whole situation when you think about how he's handled it and the information that he's put out there. So no knock on him at all. But even when you see a guy like him trying to figure out, okay, what do I do this week versus last week versus next week, I think that really kind of underscores the challenge, for a lot of the players in terms of how do I really want to address this. For some of these players who are not as politically active as a Malcolm Jenkins, I mean, it's a real situation of trying to figure out what they should
what they do.
Yeah,
what
they're
should
getting
they do?
drawn into it just by nature of being an NFL player, whereas other people in other occupations all over this country not being drawn into it. So when I talked to some NFL players during my camp tour, there was a lot of, or a few expressions from some about the whole idea of, we really are being put in a situation that maybe we didn't ask for, but we've got to respond. And so if you have a hard line policy, now you're the NFL, now you're really forcing the issue.
So you're saying the best solution could be no solution, no policy, just go forward the way we were last year?
I think let it happen organically. And you're going to have some players like Robert Quinn, as we see on the screen there, who are going to make their gestures, but you're also going to have some players evolve and maybe take different positions. I know you came down hard on Jarrell Casey the other day with the Tennessee Titans, and
for saluting.
Yeah, and
he went from I'm going to take the fine, and what was he doing? Raising his fist,
right? To
saluting.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, but that's a snap reaction. Okay, why? How could he go from one extreme to the other? But when you think about the fact that here's a guy who saluted before he raised his fist, it's not as much of a stretch. But I think it also underscores what I said a minute ago about the evolution for some of these players, just really trying to figure out just, how they have to process it internally. But, I think, Mike Tomlin, I was at Steelers camp about 10 days ago and talked to him about it. And, the Steelers had one of the more interesting scenarios last year with, Villanueva in the tunnel and, half the players not coming out.
And the coaching staff going to the sideline.
Yeah. I mean,
and by the way, they lost to the Chicago Bears that day.
Bad optics. And Tomlin said, hey, we're waiting to see what the marching orders are going to be from the NFL and the NFLPA on this. But he also pointed out, he says, hey, there were 2,700 players in the league. Preseason, it's more. In the regular season, it'll be about 2,000 or 1,800 or something like that. But he said there were only like 15 players on that first preseason weekend who actually made some sort of gesture. So when you talk about the numbers and just how many players are actually protesting, it may not be as widespread as you think. Now, that could change when the regular season starts. And after week one, when your salary is secured as a veteran player because you're on the week one roster, that could be another impetus for guys to say, okay, finally I can do something. Because I've had players tell me, too, I don't want to do anything because I need my job. So you've got all these dynamics at play. I think the best thing is to ignore the man in the White House who has tweeted over 40 times about this issue, and with each tweet,
that's his bread and butter, though. He always know he can get the applause for that stance.
Yeah, but at some point, it just doesn't have the sting that it has when you do the same thing over and over, and especially in that case where there are other situations, way outside of the anthem issue that come into play. But I think for the NFL standpoint, let it happen organically.
You mentioned something very interesting. You said that you're talking to some players, and the players said that they've somehow, some of them have gotten forced into this situation. And I told Skip, we came in here after the election, I said, what this president will force you to do, he'll force you to choose a side. You either here or there. There's no straddling the fence. You know where he stands. Now, either you stand with him or you stand against him.
And that's why the NFL does not need a hard line policy to force people to say one or the other.
Well, it happened is that when he got up on that stage in Huntsville, Alabama, and said that these players, he said they were SOBs and they should be suspended or kicked out of the league. And then you hear Commissioner Goodell echoes, and some of the owners start echoing that. They're like, hold on. They did that in 2016. You didn't say nothing. Started some of this in 2017. You didn't say anything. It wasn't until he said what he said in 2017 that now you're parroting what he said. Is that your representation? Is that what what we are now?
Well, the thing you have to realize when it comes to the NFL and ownerships and politics is that all 32 rarely agree on one situation.
Correct.
And I think that's really the case here with how they respond to President Trump. There are some owners, and we know Jerry in Dallas has been one who has pretty much, laid down the law on how he wants to run things. But everybody doesn't agree with that. And that's why we're at this position right now where we don't have a policy because, some owners are saying, well, no, it doesn't really matter. I support my players. And I think that's the thing that if you're a fan of the game and the league and the players and the whole entity, that you want to see there to really be a strong connection between owners and players.
So Shannon Sharp,
yes.
If you're playing right now, what do you do? What if you're the leader of a locker room? What do you do?
Skip, the 50-year-old Shannon and the 48-year-old Shannon sees things differently as that guy. But I'm probably going to take a stance, especially.
I would think you would.
Knowing and seeing what I see every day.